Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Berez, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about planning a trip to Puerto Rico. I just came back from Puerto Rico and had the best time. I haven't been there for 4 years until this past trip, and it's beautiful, beautiful island, and I highly recommend that this be put on your travel bucket list, or definitely put on your plans to travel to in the near future, because one, the flights right now are very, very cheap. And it's just a beautiful island, and I can't wait to share with you some travel tips on planning a trip to Puerto Rico, give you some new ideas of things to do while you're there. So if that sounds good, let's get into the video. So first things first, before you even step foot in Puerto Rico, you do have to get tested for COVID. These rules change quite often, so I'm going to leave the Discover Puerto Rico's guidelines in the description box for the most up-to-date information. But as of February 2021, you do need a negative COVID test taken within 72 hours of your arrival in Puerto Rico. So that means 3 days before your arrival, you need to get tested, and you need to get a PCR test. In addition to a negative test, you also need to fill out a travel form, a really easy questionnaire online. Ask you like where you live, where you're staying, how long you're staying, all of those kind of like general questions, as well as you have to upload your test results to that website. After you complete the travel form, you will receive a QR code. You will need that QR code to leave the airport. Literally, they have 2 people scanning codes, so if you don't have a QR code, you are not going to leave the airport. So be sure to fill out that form. And the website has updated information on different scenarios if you're still awaiting your test results, you haven't got them yet. So if you have any of those kinds of questions, they answer them very clearly in the link down below. So once you have your QR code, you're set. Now you are in Puerto Rico. Yay! Now I'm going to talk about some general things to know before you go. You do not need a passport because it is a US territory. Money is the same, USD, same outlets, same cell phone service, so you don't have to worry about not having service or getting a SIM card or anything like that if you have a US provider, which is great because I actually used my cell service for directions on a GPS when I was driving within the island, so you don't need to worry about not having cell service. The language, obviously the language is Spanish. However, in popular areas like San Juan, you will be able to get by with English. However, every place that I go to travel to that has a different language than English, I always recommend learning basic words like hello, goodbye, thank you, just to be polite. Okay, so because San Juan is probably the most popular place to visit in Puerto Rico, I'm going to go over some details of San Juan on the first half of this video, and then later in this video I'm going to be talking about exploring outside of San Juan, because I definitely think you should leave San Juan to experience other beautiful parts of Puerto Rico. Literally the most bluest beaches I've ever seen are actually on the west side of Puerto Rico. So if you have kind of a flexible itinerary, or you're planning how many days you should stay in Puerto Rico, definitely consider extending your trip 2 or 3 days to explore the western part of the island. It's cheaper than San Juan, and the beaches are just untouched, super gorgeous and natural, so definitely consider that. But I will talk more about that in the middle part of this video. But right now, I'm going to be talking about San Juan. So for San Juan, there are 3 different areas where you can stay in. You can stay in Old San Juan, Condado, or Isla Verde. Each neighborhood has a different vibe. I'm going to go talk about the pros and cons of each of these neighborhoods to help you decide which area that you should stay in for your trip. I'm going to start with Isla Verde. That's where I stayed. I stayed at the Fairmont, and it was a beautiful, gorgeous resort. 4 pools, a large beachfront area, lots of space to spread out. I really enjoyed it. It had more of like a relaxed vibe. Isla Verde, I like this neighborhood because it's relatively the most quiet neighborhood out of the 3. Has a more relaxed vibe, and it has access to a gorgeous beachfront area. And I do think you get a little bit better value for your money in Isla Verde because most of the resorts are actually in Condado, and they charge a bit more money because you're closer to Old San Juan. However, a negative part to staying in Isla Verde is that there aren't as many restaurants, bars, shops within walking distance as there are in Condado. So if you're kind of looking for more of an upbeat kind of vibe, Isla Verde is a bit more quiet than the other 2 neighborhoods. The next neighborhood you can stay in is Condado, and most resorts are actually located in this neighborhood. So it's a beachfront neighborhood with tons of restaurants, shops within walking distance, so it's super friendly for pedestrians if you kind of want to check out different restaurants. It is a bit more touristy than the other 2 in my opinion, so It's not really like an authentic feel, but it's the most lively and upbeat beachfront area. However, I do have to note that the beach in Condado is actually quite dangerous to swim in, so be sure to keep that in mind if you're staying there. I've read a lot of things actually about this beach that I've never heard about, and I swam in this beach before when I was little. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that it's actually very dangerous to swim in. While you're on a beachfront, you really shouldn't be swimming in that water. You're still on the beach though, so I guess if you don't mind not swimming, just something to keep in mind when you're looking at hotels in Condado. And then the last neighborhood is Old San Juan. Old San Juan is the historic neighborhood that dates back to the 16th century. Wow, the homes here are stunning, have vibrant colors, and it would be a really cool, authentic experience to stay in Old San Juan. You'll be smack dab in the middle of bars, restaurants, shops, right in the middle of the action. However, there is no beach in Old San Juan, so you're gonna give up a beach and large resort for being in close proximity to all of those shops and restaurants. So that's something to keep in mind. I have a whole blog post on my experience in San Juan. I will leave that down below, as well as some hotel recommendations for you guys to check out. Getting around San Juan, you do not need to rent a car if your goal is just to visit San Juan. You don't need to rent a car at all. There's Uber, really convenient and really affordable. I used Uber from Isla Verde to go to Old San Juan, and the prices were like $9 to $16 each way depending on the time and the traffic. Or you could have your hotel call a taxi. Now, if you do plan on doing some activities, excursions, most of those excursions like El Yunque, day trips to Culebra Island, or the kayak Bio Bay all require you to meet in Fajardo, which is about an hour away from San Juan. Those tours usually offer a transportation service. They're gonna offer you a discounted rate to get to Fajardo. I checked, just to check, an Uber from San Juan to Fajardo, and it was like $120 one way. So, oh, my light went away. So that is something to keep in mind when you are booking those tours and activities. However, if you do plan on going to other parts of the island, definitely you need to rent a car. So while you are in San Juan, there are some activities that you must do, and that is explore Old San Juan. It's definitely a must on my list. You could spend easily a half day to a full day here depending on how many things that you do, but honestly I like to walk around, look at the beautiful colored buildings, and you can have some amazing views of the forts that were built to protect Old San Juan. And did you know that Old San Juan is actually an island? There are only 2 ways to get in and out, so traffic to Old San Juan does get pretty crazy, especially on the weekends. I saw the traffic and I was like, whoa. Some sites that you cannot miss while you are walking and touring around Old San Juan is El Morro, which is a fort that protected Old San Juan. You can tour inside. I believe the price per adult is $7. You can see soldiers' quarters, how they protected San Juan, and it's really, really unique and a perfect family all-around activity. And be sure to wear like sunscreen, because I know there is no shade when you do tour El Morro. Another fun activity to do in San Juan is go to the Bacardi factory. I have like a love-hate relationship with Bacardi, because that was like my drink when I was like just started to drink, and I feel like I just drank it so much that I like can't drink it. But anyway, you can go to see the factory, and actually a trip there sounds super cool. I did not get to do this while I was there, but it's just a short ferry ride away from Old San Juan. The ferry is like 50 cents, and then from there you take like a 5-minute taxi ride to Casa Bacardi, and there you can take mixology classes, you can do a rum tasting, and you can fill your own Bacardi bottle. So it's a full fun experience, and I heard you can get pretty tipsy. So if you want a fun rum experience in Puerto Rico, definitely have to go to Casa Bacardi. Speaking of rum, I think trying a rum cocktail is super important. Rum is a huge part of Puerto Rico, and I sampled lots of rum cocktails at La Factoria, which is kind of like a dive slash cocktail bar. It was actually, I think it's rated one of the top 50 bars in the USA in 2019. So they have an amazing cocktail program, and the vibe, the energy, the service was all 10 out of 10. So if you want a place to drink in San Juan, you have to go. It's right in Old San Juan. It is in an unmarked building, so there is no sign. I actually passed by the building, but if you go on Google Maps, they'll tell you the exact spot, but it's kind of like a speakeasy, I guess. And then at night, inside the bar, they have 6 other bars with their own menus, so it's kind of like a maze. Definitely a must stop while you are in Old San Juan, as well as I think while you're in Old San Juan you have to try authentic Puerto Rican food. There is Cafe Manolin, which has traditional Puerto Rican food that you must try, as well as trying some Puerto Rican coffee. I went to Don Ruiz. It's a really cute coffee shop right in Old San Juan to buy some coffee beans to bring back with me to New York, as well as try some coffee there. So there are lots of fun activities to do while you're in Old San Juan. In addition, you could do a walking tour to learn more about the city, as well as like a cocktail bar hopping tour, a cooking class. There are so many cool activities. I have listed all of them with more information in my blog post if you guys want to check it out. Besides hanging out by the beach or by your hotel pool, just know that there is so many cool activities to do while you are in Puerto Rico, as well as some fun day trip activities. Of course, you have El Yunque Rainforest, which is the only rainforest in the Caribbean. They have hundreds of different kinds of plants and animals, so it's a definitely must do if you like hiking. There's different kinds of hiking trails you can do. If it's your first time to El Yunque, I recommend taking a guided tour just so you kind of understand the lay of the land. If you've been there before, there are plenty of hiking trails that you can take. Just note there is a COVID update. If you're going on your own, you need to reserve your spot in advance. I believe if you book a tour, they would do that step for you, but I would just double check because you do need to have a reservation, a time slot to go to El Yunque Rainforest. You could also do a day trip to Culebra Island, which is home to one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, Flamenco Beach. We were scheduled to go on this tour, but because of the winds and waves in the area, on that day that we were scheduled, it was canceled. So just take that into consideration when you are booking a boating tour. It may be canceled due to weather. And then of course, the kayak bio bay tour. Puerto Rico is home to 3 out of the 5 bio bays in the world. So it's a perfect opportunity for you to see bioluminescent bays while you're in Puerto Rico. So amazing, amazing experience that you must do while you're in Puerto Rico. Just a thing to note when you are booking that tour, be sure to note the moon schedule. If it's a full moon, you won't see as many organisms in the water, so it's best to kind of book it when the moon is not showing brightly. And now I'm going to briefly talk about some bars and restaurants that I recommend while you are in San Juan. For restaurants, I recommend Luisa, which is in Condado. It's a Spanish restaurant. I really recommend the restaurant. First of all, the decor was so cute. They have like live trees everywhere, but you know what? The restaurant is not about the decor, it's about the food and the service, and they were both top notch. I highly recommend the burrata. It was so unique. And they had a really cool Aperol Spritz with a splash of gin, which I've never seen before. So they have a really fun, inventive cocktail menu, as well as a full, delicious food menu as well. I also mentioned La Factoria earlier, a cocktail bar in Old San Juan that you have to visit, as well as Caña, which is inside the Fairmont El San Juan. I really highly recommend their breakfast brunch. You do not have to be a hotel guest to enjoy the restaurant, but I found that their breakfast and brunch was so good. The eggs Benedict was delicious, the avocado toast, the pancakes, the chilaquiles, like basically I tried everything, and I highly recommend going there for breakfast. They also have an amazing dinner menu, so it's a for sure stop while you are in San Juan. So I've covered my San Juan portion part of this video. Now I'm going to go ahead quickly and talk about visiting the west side of the island. So when I was originally planning my trip to Puerto Rico, I was just gonna go to San Juan, and then I was on Instagram and I was like, wait a minute. That's in Puerto Rico. Like, I saw the most beautiful beaches and I was like, I think I have to reconfigure this trip to make time to see the western part of the island, which is where most of the most beautiful beaches are in Puerto Rico. Booked a rental car, drove from San Juan to the western part of the island, which is about a 2.5-hour drive. The drive there is very straightforward and simple. It's literally one highway road to the west side. There's not lots of turns. It's very straightforward and simple. I did make things a little bit complicated because on the way to Rincon, which is where I had my home base on the west side, I stopped at the Gonzalilla Falls, which is in San Sebastian, and to get there was like the most crazy winding roads I've ever driven on. That is a must stop while you are on the west side. It's basically a natural 60-foot waterfall. You could spend a full day here kind of just soaking up the sun. They have a small restaurant and eatery. They have bathrooms, and it's fairly easy to get to. You do have to pay $10 for a park. It was a really beautiful sight. You can also jump off the waterfall, which I would never do ever, but it's an option if you're a little bit more adventurous than me. Just bring some water shoes because the moss was really slippery on the rocks if you want to go swimming. And inside the water are fish. It's so cool, honestly. So I did that before I headed to Rincon, where I spent 3 days on the west side. Rincon is a surfer's town, super chill, super cool, known for its record-breaking waves. So even though I don't surf, I still enjoyed visiting this town. Rincon has amazing beaches. It's also really affordable considering Old San Juan. The food prices, the hotel accommodation prices are really affordable. So if you are looking for something a bit different, I highly recommend checking out Rincon. I also have another blog post on this as well if you want to learn more information. There's not really many activities to do. It's really about kind of surfing, waves, beaches, but there's amazing snorkeling you can do when the waves aren't high in the summertime. During the winter time, the waves are the tallest, so it's not really necessarily. So getting around this part of the island, you are going to need a car. And the roads, once you get into Rincon, which is area, not necessarily a town. They have a downtown, which is like 4 square blocks, but it's mostly a region and there's not many roads within there. And the roads there are very narrow, so it's a very rural town still. It's like not built up at all. There's no resorts, super laid back and chill. And to find accommodation there, I would recommend booking an Airbnb. The hotel, they have a few hotels, but they mostly seem to be booked out in advance. And I honestly think you get a better value with an Airbnb when you're on the west side of Puerto Rico. If you want to watch more of what I did in Rincon, I have a vlog. You guys can check that out. There are 2 other places that I think you guys should check out while you're in Puerto Rico. And the first place is called Playa Sucia, which is located in Cabo Rojo in the south. The drive there from Rincon is about an hour and a half, and it's a beautiful untouched beach with some hiking trails. You can spend some time there at the beach. Amazing blue waters, calm. It's kind of like an inlet of a bay, and then you can do some hiking on the hiking trails with epic, amazing views of the cliffside. There are no bathrooms there, so something to keep in mind, as well as there's no vendors or anything. So if you do plan on spending a few hours there, be sure to bring your own water, food, and beverage. The parking there is free, so it's basically a free activity to do in Puerto Rico. The next place you have to visit is Playa Buye. I think I saved the best for last because this was my favorite beach we visited while we were in Puerto Rico. The water here was crystal clear blue, just the most beautiful blue Caribbean turquoise waters that I've seen, and this is the beach for a full beach day. It had such a local vibe there. Everyone basically had a cooler. People were like grilling kebabs next to us. Salsa music was playing. You can buy food there. There's also restrooms. Perfect place to relax at the beach. And Playa Buye from Rincon is about an hour drive. Both of those stops are definitely doable on a day trip from Rincon, and I think along the west side, I think Rincon is your best bet for a place to stay. There's lots of bars and restaurants, and it kind of has overall more to do versus other neighborhoods in that area. So that wraps up my travel tips to Puerto Rico. I hope you guys learned something and found some of these tips useful for your trip. Let me know if you've been to Puerto Rico or are planning to go soon. I would love to know. Please give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and be sure to hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. As always, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!